I stood at the altar, heart pounding with excitement and anticipation. Our wedding venue, my brother Jackson's luxurious estate, was decorated with thousands of white roses and crystal chandeliers. My mother beamed with pride from the front row, though I noticed her glancing more often at Jackson, who stood beside me as best man. When Amanda finally appeared in her designer gown, she looked breathtaking. But as we exchanged rings, she leaned in and whispered words that froze my blood. "You have to pay me your $7,490 monthly salary, or I will marry your handsome rich brother." I could not believe my ears. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button, and tell me what you would do if your bride threatened to leave you for your brother during your wedding vows. I met Amanda 6 months ago at a coffee shop near my engineering firm. I had just finished a long day troubleshooting network issues when I spotted her reading a book I had recently finished. Working up my courage, I asked if she was enjoying it. Her smile lit up the room as she invited me to join her. We talked for hours that first day, discovering shared interests in hiking, classic films, and spicy food. Amanda was a marketing consultant with a vibrant personality that drew people in. Our connection felt instant and genuine. She laughed at my terrible jokes and seemed genuinely interested in my work, despite my relatively modest salary compared to others in my field. I earned $7,490 monthly, which provided a comfortable life but nothing extravagant in our city. "I love how passionate you are about your projects," she told me on our third date, squeezing my hand across the table. "Money means nothing compared to finding someone with real depth and character." Those words meant everything to me. Growing up with Jackson as an older brother had always been challenging. He was the golden child who excelled at everything, without trying, graduating from an Ivy League school and launching a successful tech investment firm by 25. Our parents, especially my mother, never missed an opportunity to mention his achievements or suggest I follow his path. "Your brother just closed another $1 million deal," my mother would say during our weekly calls. "Maybe he could help you find a better position." I had learned to live with the comparisons, carving my own path and finding satisfaction in my work. When Amanda came into my life, she seemed to value me for exactly who I was. After 2 months of dating, I introduced her to my family during Sunday dinner at my mother's house. Jackson immediately commanded attention with stories of his recent business trip to Tokyo and the new vacation property he had purchased. I noticed Amanda listening intently, asking thoughtful questions about his investments. I dismissed the slight unease I felt, assuming she was just being polite. "Your family is wonderful," Amanda said on the drive home. "Your brother is quite impressive, but I am with you because you have substance. You are real." Our relationship progressed quickly after that night. Amanda began accompanying me to more family gatherings, seamlessly fitting in with everyone. My mother adored her, often pulling her aside for private conversations. In retrospect, I should have recognized how frequently those conversations included Jackson, joining them all three, laughing together while I watched from across the room. 4 months into our relationship, during a weekend getaway to a lakeside cabin, I proposed. The setting sun painted the water gold as I knelt before her with the ring I had saved 3 months to purchase. "I cannot imagine my life without you," I told her, heart racing. "Will you marry me?" Amanda cried as she said yes, throwing her arms around me. "You have made me the happiest woman alive," she whispered against my neck. When we announced our engagement, my family seemed genuinely happy for us. Jackson surprised me by offering his estate as our wedding venue. "My little brother deserves the best day possible," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Let me handle everything. Consider it my gift to you both." Amanda was ecstatic about the venue, immediately diving into planning with a renowned wedding coordinator Jackson recommended. They spent hours discussing floral arrangements, catering options, and guest accommodations. I was included in some decisions, but found myself increasingly on the periphery of the planning process. "You have enough on your plate with work," Amanda would say when I offered to help. "Jackson and I have it covered." The morning of our wedding, I felt nothing but joy and anticipation. My best friend Thomas helped me prepare, joking about my nervous fidgeting as I struggled with my bow tie. "Today is the beginning of your happily ever after," Thomas said, straightening my lapels. "You deserve this happiness, Nestor." If only I had known how quickly that happiness would shatter. As the ceremony began, 150 guests rose to their feet. The string quartet played Canon in D, and the ornate doors at the back of the hall opened. Amanda appeared a vision in white, clutching a bouquet of lilies. Her father, a quiet accountant, who had always been kind to me, escorted her down the aisle with pride in his eyes. When she reached me, her smile seemed genuine, her eyes bright with what I thought were tears of joy. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking of love, commitment, and the journey we were about to embark on together. Everything felt perfect until the exchange of rings. As I slipped the platinum band onto her finger, Amanda leaned close her lips, nearly touching my ear. "You have to pay me your $7,490 monthly salary, or I will marry your handsome rich brother," she whispered, her voice calm but firm. I pulled back slightly, searching her face for any sign she was joking. There was none. Her eyes had hardened into something calculating and cold, a look I had never seen before. "What are you talking about?" I whispered back, aware of the curious glances from our guests. "You heard me," she replied quietly. "Your entire salary every month transferred to my account. Your brother makes 20 times what you do. I would rather be with him, but I will settle for you, if you pay me. You have 30 seconds to decide." My mind raced, unable to process what was happening. The woman I loved, the person I thought I knew better than anyone, was threatening me at our wedding. Was this a terrible joke? A momentary panic attack? The officiant continued speaking, unaware of the crisis unfolding before him. But why I thought we loved each other. I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. "Love does not pay for the lifestyle I want," Amanda replied coldly. 15 seconds left. In that moment, Amanda transformed before my eyes. The warm, supportive woman who had captivated me disappeared, replaced by a stranger, whose features I recognized, but whose soul seemed foreign. 6 months of memories flashed through my mind, moments recontextualized by this new reality. The interested questions about my finances, the increasing time spent with Jackson, the expensive tastes that had seemed charming but challenging for my budget. I made the only decision I could. "No," I said firmly, though still quietly. "I will not be blackmailed in my own wedding." Amanda's expression shifted instantly. Without warning, she stepped back, pushing me away with enough force that I stumbled. Gasps erupted from the audience as she turned to face them. "I am sorry, everyone," she announced, her voice carrying throughout the hall. "There has been a terrible mistake. I cannot go through with this wedding." Murmurs spread through the crowd as my mother stood up, her face a mask of confusion. "Amanda, dear, what is happening?" she called out. Amanda turned to her, then to Jackson, who had risen from his seat with a bewildered expression. "I have realized I have chosen the wrong brother," she declared loudly. The hall fell silent, 150 pairs of eyes darting between Amanda, Jackson, and me. My father, who had remained largely neutral about my relationship, sat frozen in his seat. Thomas moved to stand beside me, a silent show of support that I desperately needed. "Nestor is not the man I thought he was," Amanda continued, fabricating a narrative before my eyes. "He has been deceptive about important matters. I cannot build a life with someone I cannot trust." I opened my mouth to defend myself, but no words came out. The shock was too overwhelming, the public humiliation too complete. Amanda handed her bouquet to her stunned maid of honor and walked directly toward Jackson. The confidence in her stride suggested this was not an impulsive decision, but a calculated move. "Jackson," she said loud enough, "for everyone to hear, you have always shown me kindness and understanding. You are successful, generous, and honest about who you are. Would you consider taking your brother's place today?" A collective gasp filled the room. I stood paralyzed, watching this nightmare unfold. Jackson stared at Amanda, then looked at me. For a moment I thought I saw hesitation in his eyes, perhaps even sympathy. That fleeting hope evaporated when his expression transformed into a slow, considering smile. "Amanda, this is highly unusual," he said, but his tone lacked any real objection. My mother, whom I had expected to defend me, suddenly rose from her seat again. Jackson has always made good decisions, she announced, her voice carrying across the shocked audience. If Amanda believes he would make a better husband, perhaps we should consider what is best for everyone. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. My own mother siding with this charade, instead of supporting her son, who had just been publicly humiliated. Around me, guests began whispering. Some looked uncomfortable, but others, particularly Jackson's business associates and friends, seemed entertained by the spectacle. "Mom," I called out, my voice finally returning. "How can you say that?" She glanced at me briefly before turning back to Amanda and Jackson. "Nestor, do not make a scene," she admonished, as if I were the one causing the problem. "Let us discuss this reasonably." I tried to approach her, but she turned away, engaging in conversation with my aunt, who sat beside her. Jackson's friends began to gather around him, and Amanda, some patting him on the back as if congratulating him on acquiring my fiancée. Looking around the room, I realized how thoroughly I had been deceived. Small interactions now made sense. Amanda's excessive interest in Jackson's business, her disappointment when he missed family gatherings, her questions about his dating history. She had been assessing him as a prospect all along. "You planned this from the beginning," I said to Amanda, loud enough for those nearby to hear. She smiled coldly. "I simply recognized an opportunity for advancement. You were a convenient way to access your family. Jackson was always the prize." Jackson actually laughed at this, placing his hand on Amanda's waist. "No hard feelings, little brother. You have always come in second place. Remember, Little League, your science project, college admissions. Each example was another twist of the knife. My entire life reduced to a series of comparisons I had always lost. But this was different. This was not a competition I had entered willingly. This was betrayal on a fundamental level." The officiant, clearly uncomfortable, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess to sort this out privately," he suggested. "There is no need," Jackson replied confidently. "If Amanda has made her choice, I see no reason why we cannot proceed with a slight change to the wedding party." Several of my relatives began nodding in agreement. A distant cousin remarked loudly, "Well, she is certainly trading up financially. Smart girl." The comment sparked scattered laughter, and something inside me finally snapped. This was my wedding day, transformed into a public humiliation by the woman I loved and enabled by the family who should have supported me. Jackson stepped forward and placed his hand on my shoulder. "Why not step aside? Nestor," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You have always been second best. This time let the better man win without a struggle." In that moment, memories of our childhood flashed before me. Jackson receiving a new bicycle, while I got his hand-me-downs. Jackson's academic achievements celebrated with parties, while my steady B+ average merited only a nod. Jackson's graduation present of a new sports car, while I received a pat on the back and suggestions to work harder. The truth crashed over me in waves. Amanda had known about Jackson before we even met. Our chance encounter at the coffee shop had been orchestrated. She had researched me, learned my routines, and used me as a stepping stone to access my wealthy brother. I shook Jackson's hand off my shoulder and stepped into the center of the aisle. For once in my life, I would not quietly accept second place. "I have something to say," I announced, my voice stronger than I expected. The room gradually quieted, all eyes turning toward me. Today, I came here expecting to marry a woman I loved and trusted. Instead, I discovered she has been using me to get close to my brother and my family's connections. She just threatened to leave me, unless I paid her my entire salary each month. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Amanda's face flushed with anger. But the greater betrayal, I continued, is from my own family. My brother, who has spent our entire lives reminding me of my second-place status, now thinks he can simply take my bride because she offers herself to him. And my mother, who should be defending her son, instead encourages this humiliation. I turned to face my family directly. "If you proceed with this farce, you will never see me again. I deserve better than to be treated this way by the people who should love me most. Amanda is welcome to try extracting money from Jackson instead of me. They deserve each other." With those words, I removed my boutonniere and dropped it on the floor. Thomas immediately moved to follow me as I walked steadily down the aisle and out of the hall past shocked guests and whispered comments. Outside, the afternoon sun felt surreal against my face. How could such a beautiful day contain such ugliness? I loosened my bow tie, got into my car, and drove away from the estate, from the life I thought I was building, from the people who had proven they did not truly care about me. I drove aimlessly for almost an hour before finding myself at Westview Beach, a quiet spot where I often came to think. The waves rolled in steadily as I sat on a driftwood log, still wearing my wedding tuxedo, now rumpled and salt-sprayed. My phone had been buzzing constantly. Thomas had sent several messages, expressing outrage and offering support. My colleague Diana asked if I needed anything. My father surprisingly had called twice, though I could not bring myself to answer. Then a text from my Uncle Sam appeared. "Proud of you for standing up for yourself, nephew. Your father and I are disgusted by what happened. Call me when you are ready." Uncle Sam had always been different from the rest of the family. He had built his own business from scratch instead of following the family's traditional career paths, earning both criticism and reluctant respect. His support meant more than he could know. Taking a deep breath, I called my lawyer, Patricia Goldman. I explained the situation and asked about potential legal implications of the aborted wedding. "Fortunately, you signed no prenuptial agreement," she said after listening. "The venue and vendors were paid by your brother, so financially, you are in the clear. As for emotional damages, we could explore options, but that might prolong your connection to these people." She was right. The last thing I wanted was to extend this nightmare. "I just want a clean break," I told her. 3 hours after I had fled my own wedding, my phone displayed Amanda's number. I almost declined the call, but curiosity won out. "Nestor, thank God you answered," she said, her voice trembling. "Everything has gone wrong. You have to help me." "Why would I help you?" I asked coldly. "Jackson is not who I thought he was," she said, sounding genuinely frightened. "After you left, he insisted we continue with the ceremony, but then he pulled me aside with his lawyer. He wants me to sign a prenuptial agreement that gives me absolutely nothing if we divorce. When I refused, he called me a gold digger in front of everyone." I could not help but laugh, a short, bitter sound. "Sounds like you found your perfect match after all." "It gets worse," she continued desperately. "Your mother started asking questions about my past. Someone at the wedding recognized me from Miami. They told her about what happened with Richard Kensington." Richard Kensington. The name meant nothing to me. "What are you talking about?" Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper. "I did something similar before. Richard was a businessman I was engaged to last year. I tried to get his money, but it went badly. Your mother knows everything now. They kicked me out of the estate. I have nowhere to go." The pieces fell into place. Amanda was a con artist who targeted well-off men, using them to access their wealthier connections or their money directly. I had simply been her latest mark with Jackson as the ultimate prize. "That sounds like a you problem," I replied, surprising myself with my lack of sympathy. "You made your choices. Please, Nestor," she begged. "I made a terrible mistake. I do care about you. We can start over somewhere else." "Goodbye, Amanda," I said, firmly ending the call. Minutes later, Jackson called. I answered, curious about what he might say. "Little brother," he began, his tone falsely warm. "What a mess today has been. Listen, I want to apologize for the misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding? You tried to steal my bride at my wedding. She came to me." He countered defensively. "What was I supposed to do? Besides, you should thank me. I uncovered her past. Did you know? She has done this before. Mom found out she was engaged to 3 different men in the last 2 years. She is a professional con artist. And you were happy to play along until you realized you might be conned too," I observed. Jackson sighed dramatically. "Water under the bridge. Family is family. Come back to the house, and we will sort everything out." In that moment, I recognized that nothing had changed. Jackson still saw himself as superior, generously offering to forgive me, as if I were the one at fault. My family would continue placing me second if I allowed it. No, I said simply. I am done being the family disappointment. Do not contact me again. I hung up and blocked his number along with my mother's and Amanda's. Then I texted Uncle Sam I could use some advice on fresh starts. 3 months later, I stood in my new apartment in Seattle watching the sunset over Puget Sound. Uncle Sam had connections at a growing tech firm here and had recommended me for a senior network architect position with a salary nearly double my previous one. The irony was not lost on me. My current $92,000 annually, far exceeding the $7,490 monthly that Amanda had tried to extort. The move across the country had been exactly what I needed. My new colleagues respected my expertise. My neighbors had no preconceived notions about me, and for the first time in my life, I was not living in Jackson's shadow. Uncle Sam remained my only contact with my former life. Through him, I learned that Amanda had briefly dated Jackson after all, lasting only 2 weeks before he tired of her demands. She had apparently moved on to target a wealthy restaurateur in Chicago. My mother had tried reaching out through Sam, but her messages always contained subtle comparisons or hints that I should reconcile with Jackson. "Your brother misses you," she would say. "He has always looked out for you." When I finally took her call one rainy Sunday, she spent most of our conversation justifying her actions rather than apologizing. "I was just trying to avoid a scene," she explained. "Jackson has always been more decisive. I thought perhaps Amanda had seen something in him that would make her happier." And my happiness was not a consideration, I asked. Her silence was answer enough. I decided to forgive her, but maintained firm boundaries, limiting our conversations to monthly calls that I ended whenever she mentioned Jackson or made comparisons. It was a relationship on my terms for once. At work, I befriended Julie, a software developer with a quick wit and genuine warmth. Unlike Amanda, Julie showed interest in my ideas, not my connections. Our friendship developed naturally into something more, but I proceeded cautiously, watching for red flags that never appeared. When I finally told her about my almost wedding, she was appropriately horrified. "You dodged a bullet," she said, squeezing my hand. "Some people think relationships are transactions. They miss out on the real value of connection." 1 year after what I now called the wedding that saved me, Uncle Sam invited me to his 30th anniversary celebration. After much consideration, I decided to attend, bringing Julie as my +1. It would be my first time seeing my family since I had walked out of the estate. The party was held at Sam's lakeside home, elegantly decorated, but without the ostentation my mother would have insisted upon. When we arrived, I tensed seeing my parents and Jackson chatting with guests on the patio. "We can leave any time," Julie whispered, sensing my discomfort. My mother spotted me first, her eyes widening. She hurried over, embracing me awkwardly, before turning her attention to Julie. "You must be the girlfriend," Sam mentioned, she said, assessing Julie's simple but elegant dress with a practiced eye. Jackson approached, next, champagne flute in hand. He had gained weight, his custom suit straining slightly at the buttons. "The prodigal brother returns," he announced loudly, attempting to hug me. I accepted with stiff politeness. "Heard you landed on your feet," he continued. "Some tech job out west, senior network architect at Quantum Solutions," I corrected. "We just secured a government contract worth $40 million. Jackson's smile faltered slightly. For the first time in our lives, my accomplishments could not be easily dismissed. Throughout the evening, I noticed subtle changes in how my family regarded me. My father asked detailed questions about my work, showing genuine interest. Cousins who had always gravitated toward Jackson now sought me out for conversation. Even Jackson seemed less confident in his usual role as the family star. Later, my mother found me alone on the deck. "I have been thinking about what happened," she said quietly. "I was wrong, Nestor. I should have supported you." The admission surprised me. "Yes, you should have. Can you forgive me?" she asked, her voice small. "I already have," I replied honestly. "But forgiveness does not mean forgetting or returning to how things were. I have boundaries now, Mom. I expect them to be respected." She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "You have changed." "For the better," I added. As Julie and I drove back to our hotel that night, I felt a sense of peace I had never experienced before. The wedding that should have been the beginning of a life built on lies had instead forced me to find my true worth. "You know what I realized tonight," I told Julie as we watched the stars from our balcony. "Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to discover what you actually need." The betrayal that once felt like an ending had become the beginning of a life lived on my own terms, free from the shadow of others' expectations. Sometimes the worst day of your life becomes the foundation for building your best self. Have you ever had a painful experience that ultimately led to positive change? Comment below and share your story of resilience. Do not forget to like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is not determined by those who fail to value you.